Ooh, WeatherBrains 433, May 12th, 2014. It's the most riveting part of the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's the pre-show. This is that magical time where we share boring personal stories. We attempt to get our technical act together and bring in our guests. And what is this here?
What do you
hey, look, it's the suit sale.
Oh, I just bought 2 suits. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, television people don't get clothing allowance anymore. At least us nobodies. So we have to wait on the men's suit sale at the suit store. Remember Anchorman?
Yes.
So this is where.
Should I?
No, it's horrible. Just horrible. They ruined it. I mean, it's not funny. The storyline's not good. There's a bunch of potty talk in it. The whole thing's just bad. It's just bad. I am very agitated that they fouled up the second version of that.
Ah. In that case, I'll take your recommendation and not bother to go.
Yeah, wait till it comes out on Netflix or something.
Gotcha.
Aubrey is live in edit booth number 23.
Yes, that's
number
right.
3.
Number 3 tonight.
You know, I don't think I've ever been in an edit booth in our television station. I worked here for 18 years, and I have never set foot in one of those things.
They're usually really warm, but tonight they're kind of chilly in here tonight.
I need to do that sometime. Maybe next week I'll move all this stuff over to an edit booth, and I can be in one. Although our edit booths are larger than my room here. All right, so let's bring in some more of our guests. Mike Mogul. Let's see if I can.
Longtime friend. Whoops.
Old Mike.
We went to school together.
H. Michael Mogul.
Yes, it's H. Michael. I never trust people who use their first initial.
I used to love hearing Mike speak. He'd come to those AMS chapter meetings in Dallas back in the 80s. He was great. He's a good guy.
That'll go to his head.
I know. And I'm disturbed. I was just when I see Nate diving under his desk. I don't know if there's an atomic bomb coming, if there's a tornado. I mean, there's obviously some crisis in the Johnson household.
Getting the cat.
Yeah, cats. And by the way, I had a cat crisis out here tonight. So,
what happened?
When I pull in every night after my break, we got 3 black cats that live here in the TV station parking lot. One is very tame, one is almost tame, and one is kind of wild. Well, the tame one just kind of lays out there and blocks your path, knowing it's my toy. I'm convinced that cat knows it is my Toyota 4Runner.
Yes, because he gets out of my way when I pull up.
Yeah, no, he's very funny about his friends, but he knows that Bill Castle and I feed him. Bill's the chief photographer, so I went down there to feed him, and usually I bought a whole bunch of new stuff this weekend. The seafood gourmet cat food. So I put a little bowl out for him, and the stinking raccoon was there waiting on me. So in addition to the 3 cats, we have a raccoon. The raccoon's about as big as a dog, and you know it is very. Those things look so cute, but I'm afraid the thing has rabies. You know, but I mean it will like rub up against my leg like the stupid cat. So the raccoon, and they pick it up with their hands. He picked up the cat's dog food or the cat food and just walked away. So I had to get 2 more cat food bowls. The whole thing's been just unbelievable. We need to get a photographer down there and watch this cat raccoon situation. It's like really weird. Hey, Mike, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Oh, you're loud and clear. You look so relaxed. You look like you're lounging in your executive office chair.
Well, if you knew what I went through today, relaxing is not where I'm at today.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
It's easy. The Patriot Act sucks.
Oh, no.
There you go. That just kind of wraps it up.
Show title.
Yep.
Yeah, show title. That's it, man. We got a show title right off the bat. Patriot Act sucks.
Government hoops.
Yeah. All right, we got to get our other guests on here, and I have a series of notes from different people. I have one from Ryan. All right, we have Matt Bolton, who's going to be joining us.
Yeah, Matt's my
Let's
intern,
invite-
so treat him nicely.
Is he related to Michael?
You know what? God, I didn't even think about asking him that. Dumb.
He could be. He could be.
I ask the important questions around here, Mike.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Hey, I do have to say, Brian, your office looks like my office.
I think my office looks a lot better than your office. Are you kidding me?
That could be a topic for another show.
Yours goes up a lot higher than mine does.
True.
This could become office brains.
All right, next we have Bam Chase. BAMCHASE.
Sounds like a socially
right.
transmitted disease.
It really does.
Wow,
There's
wrong.
another show title. Another show title. We were
No.
We're on a roll.
show titles in the pre-show.
I'll go with
I
the
need I need a mic check. I have a 3-year-old gremlin who likes to play with knobs and dials and stuff.
Loud and clear.
Ooh.
Sounding
you're loud.
good and bassy.
Sounds professional.
Nice and deep.
You have
I'll-
a very deep voice.
Nice
I'll
and
take
deep.
He's a manly man with a manly microphone in front
Actually, no, I'm a girly man with really nice equipment that somebody else gave me. So I sound like a man. And if you need more show titles, yeah, I'm full of them.
of him. And so I hear, I got a note that the sleep is for sissies thing that's not being tolerant. Somebody's mad at us. It's like
What?
everything I say, every time you open up your mouth, somebody gets mad at you.
So what's new?
Oh boy, yeah.
They need
Hey,
to
Matt,
drink
Matt.
more cheer wine.
Exactly. That will soothe the nerves, and you will not be so offended. Hey, Matt, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you know Dr. Mogul here on the line?
Yes.
This man right here.
Quite well.
Be careful.
well, I'm sure.
A title that I'm not entitled to.
And look at all the room. Looks like Mike is in like a library or something. Is this your office?
This is our tutoring center.
Okay. I'm very impressed.
Well, the school's been
All
doing
right.
such a good job that we have 150 kids here.
But he doesn't have a digital mahogany table.
That
Yeah.
is correct.
We were
He's
gathered around it as invisible.
He's got a digital mahogany bookshelf with many leather-bound books.
Yes, one of them, one of them is
distinction.
Harry Potter's magic spells.
There you go. I do like this, though, that Mike has so much headroom in his shot because he's the smartest guy on the call right now.
Oh, I can change that.
No, you need more headroom,
I need
not
more.
less.
So this isn't what you want, huh?
I'm just making sure there's enough room in the shot for the brains because we finally have some on the show.
Yeah, we do.
Every time
Nate's our
I've
TV
seen
guy.
Mike talk about probably half a dozen times at various conferences and stuff, and I learn something new every time. He's one of these people. And I'm going to say this once we actually start the show. He's one of these people that looks at the world just about 10 degrees at a different light than everybody else, and that little bit of a change makes all the difference. I learn something new every time. I'm looking forward to this.
By the way.
All right, let's see here.
That's
We now
impressive.
have
We're getting some feedback, aren't we?
Hey, Michael, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I
fine.
can hear you.
Okay.
I hear the feedback too on the screen, but I don't know where it's coming from. It's not coming from here. Unless, wait a second, could be the fan on my computer. Hold on, let me turn it down.
Yeah, I'll get it.
What kind of hat you wearing there, Michael?
Chicago Bears.
Oh, yeah.
Arr.
Okay. You know, it's baseball season.
I know. I'm just not a baseball fan.
What?
When you
It's
live
a
in
great
when you live
American
in
pastime.
when you live in Chicago, you're a baseball fan, you got to pull for the Bears. Because I mean, really,
Yeah, there's
I'm
no
a Cubs fan. I can say this.
There's no
Go
hope.
Cubbies.
Did y'all see Coors Field today in Denver? Snow
That was
covered?
beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
gorgeous, wasn't it?
All right, we're all here, so let me get
And
these
we're only
things
5
going
minutes
here.
late.
Exactly. Welcome to our cable TV audience. You know it's Monday night. You know what time it is. You know why we're here. The nice thing about it, we've been on cable for what? Almost 2 years.
Why
We don't
are
have
we
to explain ourselves anymore. Well, now that's true. I'm not so sure we know. All right. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! This is the weekly show all about weather, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains episode number 433 for May the 12th, 2014. Summer is so close. A lot of us can feel it. It's an amazing, interesting month. Typically severe weather season for the Great Plains. Still severe weather season in Dixie Alley. Snow season in Denver. It's a very interesting month, and we have an interesting panel gathered together. I'm James, and I am the part-time host of the show. The way it typically works, I'll start and Nate finishes. That's the way it's been lately. Nate is our closer. You know, I'm the starting pitcher. I come in, I get tired, I get worn out. They yank me off the mound, and Nate closes strong. Nate Johnson is with WRAL Television in Raleigh, North Carolina, one of the finest local television station operations in the United States of America. And I do believe that to be true.
I am lucky to be able to work there.
Yep, there's a few stations. I think maybe one of these shows we ought to do like a television weather extravaganza and talk about TV operations and good operators and bad operators. But WRAL is way up there at the top. I'd say top 5. But times are changing. But all these stations are changing hands. We all have new owners, and I'm still waiting on our new owners to give me a call, which is really disturbing. I've not heard from them. I've baited them. I've called them jabronis, boneheads. I've tried everything, just trying to get them to give me a call. They won't do it. So if I work getting booted.
I work one building across the breezeway from the owner of the company, and calls from the owner are, well, be careful what you wish for, James Spann. That's all I'm going to say.
I know. I might be blessed that they're not calling me, and I totally understand that. So I'll leave it at that.
I actually enjoy every conversation. I learn something every time I have a conversation with the owner of our company or any of the upper-level management folks. It's really a great place to work, and I kvetch from time to time about various things, but at the end of the day, man, there's not a whole lot of places I'd be willing to work.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And hello, Michael. You okay? I think Michael's ordering a pizza down there. Please, I'll take mushroom and pepperoni and sausage and something hot. That's good. So let's see. We got Brian Peters, the internationally beloved meteorologist here. Brian, what's on your mind? Are you sweating profusely after a warm,
humidity is on my mind.
Summer day?
I hate humidity.
What?
It's already back. Humidity. We had our nice local festival over the weekend, Friday and Saturday, and the humidity was like 140%. So it was humid. So
yeah, 2 points.
I don't
back
mind
in
the heat, but
where
it's
we are.
the humidity.
I'm about ready for October, and we've had like one day of this. So,
one weekend, and I'm ready to be done with humidity.
Yeah, and the weather where we are the last day or two, partly sunny, hot, humid. Couple of thunderstorms and scattered spots in the afternoon. We're going to be saying that for the next 4 months. I mean, how many ways can you say the same thing over and over and over? And I think we need to do an air mass thunderstorm show. That is one of the great.
If we're going to do that, we need to have Chuck Doswell on the show, if for no other reason than to hear what he calls them. And I won't say it because I'll rob the fun. But as a student, as a junior in meteorology at I think either the first or the second College of DuPage weather conference for undergraduates, he gets up there and starts talking about air mass, thunderstorms, and I just about died laughing. It was great.
Yep. They are one of the great mysteries of life, and Chuck he has a unique way of describing them.
Yes, he does.
What's cool now on the Twitter, everybody's sending me these pictures this evening. It looks like the atomic bomb has gone off. There's a mushroom cloud. But I actually got some really cool pictures of the towers this evening. But anyway, Brian, it's always nice to have you here. We have Aubrey Urbanowitz, who adds a little class and common sense to the show, which is desperately needed. So thank you.
I think she has a lot of class.
I try.
And she's in edit bay number 3 tonight.
I'm in my padded cell. Yes, as usual. It's needed. Our dew point today reached 62. That's a feat for Virginia. Well, for the mountains in Virginia.
Yeah. In fact,
that sounds bad.
I do the weather down the road in Lynchburg on the radio, and I'm using, I do believe, 91 tomorrow, and their dew points are up there. So yeah, it's almost that time of the year. Just kind of.
We went 86, so that sounds about right.
Yeah. All right, Nate. Well, but by the way, Bill Murray is out. He is a little under the weather this week, or he's doing some secret operation. We don't know what he's up to, but he alleges that he is ill. So, Nate,
too much cheer wine.
You ready?
Not enough cheer wine. Well, let's get in first off with our guest WeatherBrains for tonight, and want to introduce Mike Mogul from How the Weather Works. Mike is the founder of How the Weather Works. They focus on doing a lot of stuff, a wide array of services, including forensic support, school learning programs. You'll notice that he's got many leather-bound books that smell of mahogany in his shot there if you're watching with us on the Google Hangout. It does a lot of writing, editing, photography, forecasting. This is the cool thing, and we're getting to that time of year, and actually we're almost getting past that time of year if you want to put in an application, but he is the director of the National Weather Camp Program. He and his wife also own and operate a tutoring company called MathWorks. They serve more than 150 students a year, and he's also just formed the Learning Works Foundation, a not-for-profit company dedicated to encouraging learning. And as I was saying in the pre-show, he's one of these guys. I've had the privilege to hear him speak about half a dozen times at different conferences. That's not nearly enough, because he's one of these guys that sees the world in just a slight different light than the rest of us do. And I want to know how you do it, Mike, because that little bit of a light difference makes all the difference in the world. And I learn something every time. I'm really looking forward to having you on. Mike Mogul, welcome to the program.
And I'll answer your question, too. I give all credit to that to Len Snellman, who used to be Director of Scientific Services at Western Region Headquarters.
Okay.
The reason. He didn't want meteorological cancer. He wanted meteorologists to think.
Love it. Ooh. I love it. There's your show title right there.
Exactly.
Our second guest WeatherBrain for tonight is a student and intern at How the Weather Works. His name is Matt Bolton. Matt, good to have you on the program tonight.
Great being here.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Mike Mogul.
Okay, basically, I've been his intern for the past 4 years. We met at the Jackson State Weather Camp. This was actually my second camp. There's this national program, but I started in 2009 at Jackson State, and the professor there actually asked me back in 2010 as an assistant because he really liked how I performed in some of the activities we did at the first camp. So I was there in 2010 as an assistant, and Mr. Mogul was actually there inspecting the camp. And basically after 2 days knowing me, he offered me an internship, and I mean, the rest is history. It's basically changed my life.
Wow. Pretty cool. So you guys have been doing some research that we'll talk about here in a little bit. One of the discussions we've had is with climate change and everything else is the amount of tropical activity changing. We have some good numbers from the Atlantic, but you guys have done some research. We'll get to that here as we go through the program this evening. You've done some research worldwide and actually put some context to those numbers, so I'm looking forward to hearing that here in a little bit. Our guest WeatherBrain for tonight is a meteorologist for BAMChase.net. That's B-A-M, BAMChase.net. It is a storm chase and weather consulting company based in Indianapolis, Indiana. Michael Clark, welcome to the program tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nate.
Good to have you with us, and talk a little bit about bamchase.net. Interesting business model you guys have. Tell us a little bit about it. You're actually turning this weather thing into some money.
Yeah, it's going real well. First off, man, it started. The three of us. BAM comes from the names of the owners of the company, Brian, Amanda, and Michael. It's a pretty unique name we kind of developed on the fly. And, we started out where we kind of developed a Facebook and a Twitter page, and, we're doing some storm chasing for a local Fox affiliate here in Indianapolis. One thing kind of led to another. We started doing some forecasting, and I was in school at Mississippi State University and doing their broadcast meteorology program. And we started to notice that, we were doing pretty well with making a decent forecast here in Indianapolis, and decided that, hey, maybe we'll get into the private side of things and try and make some money, and we'll also try and stay on the public side of things and bring people live severe weather coverage through the news station. And it's unique because we get a lot of exposure through being on television, but we also get a lot of exposure from our weather forecasting.
Pretty cool. And you said you've got 3 people on the company.
Yes, sir.
And it's a pretty interesting arrangement. And you said there was a Brian and Amanda, and our show notes here suggest that Amanda is the wife of one of the 2 of you.
That's correct. Amanda is the wife of Brian, and right. Brian is basically kind of the brains behind the website and how everything works, our subscription service. He's kind of our technology specialist, if you will.
So if you get married to an Allison, does this become BamaChase.net?
Oh, yeah.
That's right. We've been thinking about that.
A little slow on the rim shot there, Span.
Sorry. He's multitasking. Don't worry.
I was actually having my finger on the buzzer. I had to change slots there.
Love it. So, what sorts of things you mentioned that you guys do forecasting? What sort of products or forecasts do you guys issue on a regular basis?
Well, for example, one of our biggest accounts right now is the Indianapolis 500 Festival Committee. We're doing the forecasting for the mini marathon, which is the largest half marathon in the United States, the 500 Festival Parade, a number of different, the Miracle Ride Foundation here out of Indianapolis, they've raised almost $5 million for charity last year. What that is basically 7,000 motorcyclists all donate and go on this big ride around Indianapolis, and we provide them with kind of a detailed weather forecast anywhere from 5 to 7 days prior to their event. So we try and keep it, realistic to where we can give them an accurate prediction. And as we get closer to things, we try and fine-tune it for them so they can plan around their events.
Pretty slick. Now, the rest of your forecasting is subscription-based, and you've got folks paying a subscription fee. What do those folks get?
What they get is basically a detailed analysis of basically all different spectrums from all your different forecast models. I have a different way I do things that a lot of people may not agree with, but I agree. I like to say, hey, okay, there's a possibility that one computer says we're going to get 1 inch of snow, and another computer says 12 inches of snow. So let's dive into it, figure out which computer is performing the best, go with the best forecast, and then these video analysis, if you will, we break down all the different views of things, all the different models. And then at the end of the whole thing, it's kind of basically me saying, hey, this is what I think is going to happen based off of what I'm giving you. So they get to learn because I try and teach them as I go, and I try to make it to where they can understand it, if that makes sense.
So you mentioned that some people find this method controversial.
Yeah, I mean, if I post if I'm on my discussions and I say, hey, the European model came in saying we could get 1 foot of snow in the next, 4 days out. Well, okay, what are the chances of Indianapolis actually getting 1 foot of snow in a 24-hour period? Well, it's happened maybe one time. Yeah, it's very, very slim. So, all these people are saying, well, you said on this model 4 days ago we're going to get 1 foot of snow. And, with the power of social media lately, you've got to be really careful with how you word that. You've got to say this is not a forecast. This is a suggested outcome from one of many different possibilities. but I get very excited about the weather. I love every aspect of it. You know, if I see a big snowstorm coming, I'm getting excited. I'm staying up late. I'm going through the data, and it's just because it's what I love to do. And I love to share what I'm seeing with everybody else. And you know, some will get will say, well, that may not be the best method. You know, so I've seen both sides of it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So
but at the end of the day, you're putting a forecast out with your name on it that may or may not match the model. You're saying, here's the range of possibilities as presented by the computer model, but here's the number I'm hanging my hat on, my Chicago Bears hat on.
Exactly. We'll make an official forecast. We'll watermark it, and I'll say, hey, here's the BAMChase.net official snowfall forecast. And we did that probably 20 times this year. This was the snowiest winter we've ever had here this year with 52 inches of snow. But, you know, we will say, okay, you know, from 0 to 12 inches, we're going to say, hey, we're going to get 4 to 7 inches of snow tonight. We'll make an official call, try and clear it up a little bit, you know.
So how did you get into weather in the first place?
I tell you what, it was a parent-teacher conference when I was in the 3rd grade. My mom was with me, and we were at our elementary school. And
by the way, I have to stop you here for those who aren't able to watch us on Google Hangout. As soon as you said parent-teacher conference, Mike Mogul just got this big grin on his face. This is right up his alley, and I expect there's going to be some great interaction here as we go through the next little while. But please continue.
Yeah, sure. So we're sitting there, and the skies are as green as they could be. They are just eerie green skies, and you know, and I'm wondering, why are the skies green? You know, what is causing this to happen? The tornado sirens are going off, and we're having to take shelter, you know, or have to kind of get ducked down during this parent-teacher conference. And it sparked an interest of mine that has just grown from that day forward. I mean, I had a weather station in my closet through elementary school and middle school, and my friends used to be like, man, you know, what is all this stuff? You know, I would call it my weather office, but you know, when I was in when I was in elementary school, it wasn't necessarily one, but you know, that sparked my interest, and I would ask for books for Christmas. I remember when I was in 5th grade, I asked for a video camera, and I started videotaping myself doing the weather when I was in the 5th grade, and I had my own imaginary TV station that I reported to, and I was just crazy about it. It's all I wanted to do.
What was that? Do you remember the name of your TV station that you reported to?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what, I actually took it from a station in Clearwater, Florida, and it was called Weather 9, Weather on the Nines.
Oh,
yep.
Mike Clay, if you're listening right now, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. So go ahead.
Well, my grandparents had a condo in Clearwater, Florida. And I would go down there and visit, you know, and on one side of the street in Florida, it could be thunderstorming, and on the other side of the street, it's sunny. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, what in the devil's going on? And then the Weather on the Nines breaks in with their update every 9 minutes, you know, and I'm like, well, hey, there's the latest Doppler radar, and it's just that close.
That's beautiful. I love it. Make sure Mike Clay down at Bay News 9 gets a copy of this one. This is good stuff. So tell us a little bit about Henryville, Illinois.
Henryville, Indiana. It was just...
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Just east of Illinois. That was in March 2nd, 2012. High-risk tornado outbreak. I believe there were 28 fatalities that day. It was a very large tornado outbreak. In the town that we happened to target that day, there was one loss of life, unfortunately. It was a very large tornado, EF4, 175 mile per hour winds estimated. This thing was just absolutely huge. It had inflow winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour. I mean, it was pulling us out of the car almost. So, you know, this thing's coming in to target Henryville, and just so happens we're chasing for Severe Studios' Corey Hartman, and Corey Hartman got us in touch with HLN, Headline News, and so we're walking Headline News through this massive tornado. It's I'd say about a half mile wide. that coming through the town, and I'm trying to say, hey, I don't know how many people are watching HLN in that small town, but there's a very large and dangerous tornado coming. So we're getting in the truck and we're driving through town. We're a decent distance ahead of this thing, and there's actually literally people standing outside in the parking lots as tornado sirens are going off, and they're just waiting for something to come and see they're looking to see what's coming. And we're just blown away. We're like, man, this thing is huge. So we're yelling out the car windows, take shelter now, the big tornado coming. And it wasn't 30 seconds later, it completely cleaned that town off the map. It was unbelievable, the devastation that came through there that day. And the biggest thing that really kind of threw all of us back was the amount of people that literally had no clue. They just didn't have any idea that there was a half-mile wide tornado targeting their town, and that we were messed up for quite a few days afterwards. It just kind of really hit home with us because we were like, man, this is it really hits home when you see it firsthand,
Mm-hmm. And speaking of firsthand, I mean to interrupt you, but if you look behind you over your right shoulder, it looks like you've got a picture.
Yes. Yes, sir. These are the three top pictures up here are actually from Henryville. The first picture up there, you probably can't see it very well, is very eerie because it says "Welcome to Henryville," and it's the sign.
Big Kiwanis Club sign there.
Yes.
My father-in-law. I have to get that reference in for my father-in-law.
Yeah, and this thing's left standing, and the whole town is leveled.
Wow.
And we were like, that is a very eerie picture. That picture went on to be on several newscasts and kind of led the way with, just how it's just very eerie, to know that tornadoes, they're so mysterious, and they're going to level homes and schools, but that sign stayed up,
Mm-hmm.
Just
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah.
So what's it like in the private sector? Are you guys making enough money? You having to? Is this a side job or is this a full-time gig for you guys?
It's actually, as of August of last year, it's a full-time gig for me, and we just brought on Amanda, which is Brian's wife. She's now handling all of our marketing and customer service, and we're doing pretty well. It's growing. We just brought on a very large commercial roofing company out of the Ohio Valley. They do commercial roofing in 7 different states. Mm-hmm. So they're looking for obviously advanced prediction on severe weather forecasts and then reports afterwards. Where was the hardest hit areas? What was the duration of, if there was a 2-inch hailstorm, how long did it last? Was it, can we estimate, was it a minute or 10 seconds? You know what I mean? Just we try and get them the best detail as possible. And aside from that, between our social media pages, we have a little over 55,000 followers social media-wise. So we have a website that gets a lot of traffic. So we sell ads on our website for additional income. And then I also do the radio. I do radio weather here for the Dave Ramsey Show. Freedom 95.9 FM. I do that 7 days a week, so that also helps out quite a bit too.
Nice.
So it's
in terms of the storm chasing and situations like Henryville and others. There, obviously last year was a difficult year for storm chasing. We had our first fatalities and really fatalities that nobody expected. That would be the guy, Tim Samaras, and
oh yeah.
Certainly it gives everybody pause. How has that changed your approach, or has it changed your approach to how you chase storms, especially since you guys are providing video, in some cases live video of storms? How are you trying to balance the sort of the monetary interest of getting close and getting the reports that you need, but also being able to stay safe and serving as a good example for people who may be watching this going, hey, this is something I want to do?
Yeah, and it's a prime example here is this yesterday's tornado events here in Nebraska. There was a very small area with a very big tornado potential. Ended up being hundreds of chasers on one single storm cell. People ended up getting ran over and injured, and I understand there was a tour guide company out there that was affected as well. So, you know, we made the decision, hey, this is not a large, substantial outbreak. Probably hang back on this one. There's going to be a lot of chasers. The problem now is everybody is storm chasing since that show Storm Chasers on Discovery Channel, which, you know, I have no problem with. I love storm chasing, and I think anybody should be able to do it if they want to do it, as long as they know what they're doing. Because if you get 500 chasers on one storm cell and you don't have a very good road network, you're going to run into some problems, and people are going to get injured, and in some cases lose their lives. And so, you know, we evaluate it now. Is it really worth us? Is the area big enough for us to go out there, drive all the way from Indiana, and put ourselves, add another vehicle to this chase regime, and you know, see if we can chase? It's just, we try and make sure the setup is going to be broad and big enough to where we won't run into those kinds of problems.
And is that in terms of storms that you guys are actually going to chase? Have you felt like you're going to change your approach at all for the days you actually do go out?
We've always, honestly, even before the deaths of the chasers last year, we've always tried to keep a safe distance. Our vehicle's not armored. You know, we don't have a lot of armor or hail guards and stuff like that. You know. So we're just there to really get video and pictures from a safe distance. The closest we've honestly ever been is Henryville, and that was just because you know, we kind of got caught in that town. So we've never really had that approach to where we get, you know, as close as possible. You know. Mm-hmm. We've always tried to keep us a safe distance, you know, from our best judgment.
So what are the next steps? What parts of the Weather Enterprise does BAMChase.net going to conquer next?
Well, you know, I've always said this. You know, I've always, my mom always told me, you know, find your passion, make it your career, and you'll never work again. And I'm a very firm believer in that. And, you know, this is a passion of mine. I absolutely love forecasting weather and reporting it to people. You know, what I want to be able to do is capture. There's 6 million people that live in Indiana. You know, I don't have all those people subscribe to us or using us for weather forecasting. So my goal is to capture as many people as possible. And I really like the idea of being exclusive to Indiana, and then maybe kind of branch out to the Ohio Valley. Mm-hmm. But I like the idea of being able to focus on an area and put all my time and effort into an area, whereas I'm looking at Virginia in the morning and Colorado at night. You know, I kind of like to be able to have that ability to focus. So my overall goal is, you know, big commercial companies, big festivals and fairs and events, anybody in Indiana that needs weather and that needs an accurate plan or forecast to plan around their outdoor event, I want to be that guy that they come to, or that company.
Any reach out from the Indiana State Fair? I know we had the issue a couple years ago with severe storms moving in through there.
Well, I'll tell you this, one of the very high up NDOT guys, his name is Gary, and he has been a great help with us. He's got us on with the Indianapolis 500 committee. We are in talks. There has been nothing official. There's been you know, hey, if we do this, if we do that, we've spoken. There's no plans yet, but we are definitely trying as hard as we can to get into that for sure.
All right.
So,
hey, let me ask you a question about monetization. All right, so you know,
sure.
16, 17-year-old kid, I see this all the time. They come up, I want to be a storm chaser. And they're convinced in their mind that they are going to go out in their vehicle and chase storms and get some video and pictures, and they are going to make a lot of money. And I don't know anybody that's making a lot of money doing that. In fact, most people I know, they're losing a lot of money doing that with gasoline and lodging and all these expensive. How would you respond to some 17-year-old high school junior or senior who says, I want to be a storm chaser, and that's how I'm going to make a living?
I would respond like this, is that you really need to think about what you're doing, because, we have storm chasing is a hobby of ours. We storm chase, like I said, for the Fox affiliate here out of Indianapolis. We have a small contract with them. We provide them footage of severe weather events, but there is no way that it will ever even come close to paying a car payment for the whole year, let alone, paying salaries. It's something we do on the side if we can do it. But in my personal opinion, I would tell them, you need to go to school, you need to study meteorology, you need to become a forecaster, whether it be private or public, or TV, whatever it may be. That there's more money in the forecasting aspect of things than there is in actually just storm chasing.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that's making a lot of money on this. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know. I guess there might be one or two, but
I don't know how you really could.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So you're monetizing your private forecasting products by advertising. Is that your main source of monetization?
It's honestly, right now, it's about 50-50 between our privatized forecasting service and the advertising that we do, both on the radio station and on our website. It's about 50-50 right now. So we're getting it.
Do you have to go sell the ad messages yourself, or did somebody do that for you?
Well, as of right now, it's Amanda and I. We do it. I'll play salesman, and then I'll go down and break down my data later in the day. We're doing what we can to make it happen right now until we can get a large sum of private companies paying enough money. We're going to do what it takes to make it happen until that does happen.
And how many of your products do you release on social media, since you're charging for your services? What do you give out free for somebody that follows you on Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or whatever?
Yeah, we give out. I make updates all the time, every day. I do short-term, 5-day forecasts. Weather the next 24 to 72 hours. I'll say, hey, let's expect thunderstorms this afternoon by 2 p.m. We'll post a little update, throw out the HRRR model, future radar product, and say, hey, this is what we expect this afternoon. So we try and keep it to where there are still thousands of people that will come and check our 5-day forecast, and that aren't paying customers and that never will be. There are a lot of people who will never pay for the weather, and that's fine. But we do offer as much. I put out as much information as possible to attract more of an audience, if that makes sense.
And so here's the next question. And again, let's just say I'm Joe Q Public, and you are selling a weather product or service. Mm-hmm. The question is, why would I pay you if I get it free on my phone? And this is a problem we all have. I mean, understand, I'm about to walk into a television station, and I'm in the Central Time Zone, so it's 10 o'clock news, but I'm going to go in there and do a traditional weathercast on a 10 o'clock newscast where I know in my heart everybody got the weather today by looking at their phone. They already know what the weather's going to be. So how would you respond to that? Where do we fit in, those of us that do this for a living, in this age of getting a weather forecast off your phone app?
I have a perfect response for you for that, because I've had so many people ask me that, and I know for a fact a lot of these automated apps, and I'm not going to mention different names, but a lot of these big brand name apps that are free, you can get 10-day weather forecasts on. It's an automated gridded forecast, either from a NAM or a GFS MOS output. And my opinions on NAM and GFS, MOS, and all that stuff are there too. I don't think it's anything special. But you're going to get a forecast that's going to change 4 times a day. At 7 a.m. it's going to say sunny and 65 at 6 p.m. But then at noon it's going to change and say it's supposed to storm at 2 p.m. So the new data comes in, then your app changes, then your forecast is completely different. So we try and put that human element back into forecasting. The way I was taught to forecast was thickness calculations, 850 millibar temperatures. what are my critical thickness values? What are, can we make a more accurate forecast for you with the data, but also with that human interaction, And that's my thing is these apps, they don't get that. They don't get an actual forecaster with that app putting in the custom forecast for that location. It's just a computer. And I just don't think it's ever going to be that great,
Well, we have a name for those apps, and we call them crap apps. Hey, Mike Mogul, I'd love to hear your comments on this. Where do we fit in this age of these bad phone apps?
Well, I don't use the phone apps at all. I use the phone to get the latest radar. That's it. But Michael,
you're an Einstein. You're a big time weather guy. I'm talking about Joe Q Public.
Well, no, I understand that. But Michael, I like what you said because taking up on my comment about Len Snellman before, you're doing exactly what he would have wanted. Is don't just buy the computer forecasts, put something into them, put some knowledge into them, put some local geography into it, whatever. Makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. I was taught by Chief Meteorologist Brian Wilkes here out of Indianapolis. I don't know if you guys know who that is or not. He interned under Tom Skilling for a couple of years. The biggest thing I was taught was pattern recognition. A forecast model can do one thing, and that can help you get the forecast wrong. So it's always just recognizing this pattern and saying, hey, I've seen this setup before. I know that a ring of fire setup in the Ohio Valley could trigger a derecho with 100-degree surface temperatures. Even though the models or the high-resolution models don't show a Boeing MCS coming through tonight, I know that this pattern promotes that type of behavior. So I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, cool. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. We're going to get to Mike and Matt after we pause for a quick moment. We're going to do WeatherBrains 101. We will talk with Mike, and we will talk with Matt. We're going to have the email inbox. Nate probably has some news for us. We have the picks of the week, and who knows what else as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
Let's take a look at some of the action going on in the flow aloft. Two items get a lot of attention and sometimes take the blame for things unnecessarily. Those two items are the jet stream and the jet streak. A jet streak refers to a portion of the overall jet stream where wind along the jet core is stronger than in other areas along the jet stream. The jet stream itself is a fragmented global wind flow encircling the mid-latitudes in a pattern that resembles a series of sine waves. Embedded within this belt of airflow are jet streaks. A jet streak is a segment of the jet stream that has relatively high velocity winds. Jet streaks are also known by other terms like jet max and jet surge. Jet streaks are the result of a large low-level temperature gradient, so they are more intense in the cool season when the temperature differential between polar regions and tropical regions is the largest. Wind maxima are found at all levels in the atmosphere, but jet streaks are typically analyzed near the 300 millibar level from the data obtained by the Radioson network operated by the National Weather Service. Analysis of a jet streak can be complicated because the jet streak itself may be moving through the flow at 25 knots, while the wind in the core of the jet streak moves at 160 knots. This produces a wind acceleration as air approaches the jet core and decelerates once leaving it. As air enters a jet streak, it speeds up, but when it leaves a jet streak, it slows down. These accelerations and decelerations, coupled with the curvature of the jet stream and strong wind shear, cause air to pile up in some areas, that's convergence, and spread out in other areas, that's divergence. These regions of divergence and convergence have a significant influence on surface pressure features. As a jet streak moves within the trough ridge pattern, it influences the amplification or de-amplification of the trough ridge pattern. A strong jet streak on the left side of a trough, or the west side, will cause that trough to amplify or strengthen and deepen, while a strong jet streak on the east side, or the right side of a trough, will cause that trough to de-amplify or weaken. There's absolutely no shortage of complication when dealing with the complexity of our atmosphere. If you have a question about the weather, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
All right, we've wrapped up that, and now let's talk to Mike and Matt. I'm curious about what you know about tropical activity across the globe. One of the things that's been discussed extensively in the last few weeks, especially with the National Climate Assessment coming out last week and the IPCC's report a few months ago, is everyone wants to know, one of the things everyone wants to know is, are we going to get more hurricanes? And the data for that, especially outside of the Atlantic, a little sketchy, but you guys have some, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you found.
Well, I'd like to share with you guys and gals, our viewers, this little slide that I picked up from the local newspaper the other day. Let's see if it works. Here we go. This is put together by Steve Sack out at the Minneapolis Star and Tribune. I'll let everyone take a look at it for a moment.
We're not actually getting the screen share here. It's not yet.
Oh, let's see what happens.
Are those calculus manuals back there behind Mike?
Sure. Okay.
I like it.
Where did it go? Here we go. Screen share. Let's see if it's going to save. Technical difficulty.
For those listening by audio here, we will just be very descriptive.
Yes.
And I have not really looked at the percentages here. I need to do that, but I would say about 3 and 4 listen, 1 and 4 watch. So we will be very descriptive here.
All right. Well, it's not doing it, lo and behold. So, okay. I will then talk about it. The cartoon that he drew, and I just want to put this into perspective before we get started on our hurricane data, showed a balance scale. And on one side of the scale were all the scientists that believe in human-caused climate change. And then on the other side of the scale...
We will suspend the buzzer. Go ahead, Mike.
Wow, that was good. On the other side of the scale is this one guy who is, quote, the skeptic. And the people on the other end of the balance scale, the hundreds of scientists that believe in human-caused climate change, are on the top of the scale. And this one guy has weighed the scale all the way down to the bottom. So it's backwards. And they make some comment that he probably doesn't believe in gravity either. So I took a look at the cartoon and said, well, maybe this one guy is down at the bottom of the scale because his scientific reasoning and his thinking, rather than going with the flock, makes his analysis more weighty and more thoughtful. And that's sort of where I wanted to take this, that if we're going to look at a topic like climate change or hurricane frequency or storm frequency or any of these weather events that are happening, I want to do more as a scientist than merely look at someone's report that says believe this or else. And I want to question it. And I'm hoping, and Matt and I have talked about this at length, that anything we say tonight, good, bad, or otherwise, that some of the listeners and viewers will question us. If we can defend it, we will, and if we can't, we won't. But we're not going to go with the category of named callers or flat earthers or, whatever. We want to deal with this as a scientific process, and that means you have to ask questions. It's what Len Snellman wanted. It's what Michael is doing out in Indiana. I think it's what you guys at WeatherBrains do all the time. So that's sort of my disclaimer to get started, and I just wanted to put that into perspective.
All right. So talk to us about tropical activity. What have you guys found?
Well, we got started on this because the news media, of which you guys are part of, unfortunately, but I'm talking about the media, not the weather side of it, kept talking about the Atlantic Basin and how bad the storms were and how frequent the storms were. And we just started talking about it and said, gee, what about the rest of the world? And at that time, nobody had, come forth with any public information about it. And we since learned that Ryan Maui has done some work on that. We have some of his information. But we just wanted to see what was going on globally. And Matt did a lot of work on this. A lot of the work he actually did before he ever entered college, which is especially cool. But the game plan was that we went in with no preconceptions. We said, let's see what the data says. And what we found was extremely interesting, and it's led us along the path to where we are today. And Matt's going to present those results, and while he's doing that, I'm going to figure out why my slides are not showing up on screen share.
If you can't get them, I can pull them up.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go and do yours first, because mine follows yours. So,
Right. Okay.
One goes to Matt, my intern.
All right. So you can all see this.
Not yet.
We are seeing your face.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this is my first Google Hangout, so let's see how this goes.
Welcome to the club.
All right, screen share. And then this one.
Hey!
Hey,
There we
there
go.
you go.
His
All right,
work.
good. Good. All right.
Well, I see
So
what's
this
wrong
is-
now. Matt is using Windows. That's the problem. But go
Yeah.
ahead, Matt.
I was using Macintosh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
All right, so this
Must
is
be
an
an operator
abridged.
error on Mike's part.
Yes.
Yes, I definitely operator error.
This is an abridged version of what I had presented most recently at the AMS annual meeting in Atlanta. And I just wanted to share some of these results. Mr. Merkel has the other half of this PowerPoint, and he's going to be discussing some of those other factors. But I'm just going to be here talking about frequency. Just real quick, the methodology we used, we looked at the raw number of named tropical storms, so those with of at least tropical storm strength 39 miles an hour. We also plotted duration, and we looked at carbon dioxide and some other variables. And this is the first product we came out with, the global average of named cyclones. The average is about 70 per year, give or take, back to 1965. And
And are you, Matt, are you changing through your slides? Because we're still seeing the title slide.
I had changed it. Hold on, let me try this again.
There we go.
There we go.
You got it?
Click that
All
window
right.
from time to time. There we go.
All right, good. Whoops. Is it there?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. So the average of the named storms per year was about 70, give or take one or two each year. And recently we wanted to overlay carbon dioxide data just to see if there were any apparent relationships. And so far it seems that we're not seeing any relationship between CO2 and the cyclone frequency. And I'll refer back to that one later on. I did some basin-to-basin comparisons, and as you'll see here, this is the East, West, and South Pacific. East Pacific is white, West Pacific is yellow, and the blue is the South Pacific. And this data goes back to 1965. Most interestingly, let's see, you can see my mouse. 1983, 1997, and 2010 were all El Nino years. And there was a related increase and decrease in the East Pacific, West Pacific, and South Pacific. And we have yet to do any detailed statistical analyses on these numbers, but we plan to do that in the near future. Now that my school's out for the summer, I've got some work to do. And this is just those numbers with the Pacific overlaid with the Atlantic. Same time frame back to 1965.
I don't think we have the right slide up there.
All right, hold on. There's a little bit of a lag.
There you go.
Is it there?
Yes.
Great. All right, so Same kind of thing, except that the Atlantic, there really isn't that much of a relationship. And let's see, 2009, of course, we saw an increase in the Atlantic, and that there's a corresponding dip in the West Pacific and the East Pacific, but 2010 and 2011 both had 19 named storms in the Atlantic, so we had a little bit of a flat line, and then this past year, I believe, what was it, 14 named storms, so we had a little bit of a downfall.
I was going to say, one of the things that's evident here is if you start at 1997, the Atlantic is definitely higher from 97 on than it was before 97.
Yes.
And when I show you the statistics that Maui has put together, keep 1997 in mind to compare to this rise in Atlantic cyclones.
We also looked at duration with this latest iteration of the study, back to 1990 for the East Pacific and the North Atlantic. And what I did here was, just initially I wanted to get a rough visualization. So I looked at each storm, the total life cycle from first advisory through dissipation. And in the future I want to be able to refine that to just include advisories. But what's fascinating here is that contrary to
the slide again, Matt, it's not advanced.
Oh, it's not advancing. Sorry about that.
There you go.
It's there? Okay. I should probably just repeat that step. You got it?
Yep, here.
All right, great. So the East Pacific has just been on a steady decline back to 1990, and the Atlantic it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but it's pretty steady around six days for each cyclone. And we're standing, I believe it was 5.4 this past year for the Pacific. And this is global hurricane frequency 1978 to 2013. Let's try that again.
It's there.
All right, good. Okay, so this graph is from Ryan Maui. He's referencing the all hurricanes at the top, and then the number of major hurricanes, Category 3 and above, on the bottom. And I think Mr. Mogul is going to talk a little bit about this graph as well. But basically, the total number of hurricane strength storms is decreasing, while the major hurricane number is slowly increasing. And like I said, he'll get into this with a little more detail. But basically, the conclusions that I found going back, let's see if I can go back successfully to this first graph, is that the supposed indicators of climate change, carbon dioxide, sea surface temperature rise, are not seemingly affecting the frequency of the global tropical cyclone number. Like I said, the average is 70, and with carbon dioxide and sea surface temperatures rising, you would expect there to be an increase, but there has not been an increase dating back to 1965. So just to finish up real quick, let's see if I have it here. Future work, I want to look at, I want to do some statistical analyses on the El Nino numbers, the case studies being 1983, 97, and 2010. I want to look at El Nino. I want to look at the duration further. I want to see if I can work on gathering some data for the West Pacific to compare to the East Pacific and the Atlantic. And then we want to look at MJO and some other oscillations and cycles to see if there are other relationships between the basins. I think I covered it pretty well. Mr. Mogul can cover anything else that I missed.
If you want to run my presentation for me, since I can't do it, that would be super.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Whoops. Go back into screen sharing mode.
We're going to make Matt the new screen sharing officer for the show since he's got this whole thing figured out now.
All right, there we
Well,
go.
I actually like the idea of him doing it because I could see what he was doing. If I was running the show, I might not have seen it as well, so this is good.
All right, is it up?
Yeah, let's skip to the next one. We already did the climate change one.
Let me know. You want to start with this one?
I want to start with the, that one is good, yeah. So this is the one Matt did before with the CO2 and the number of hurricanes, and we can go to the next one. Okay, and this is the hurricane frequency that Matt did, and what I want to point out is that if you look through 1997 on the left side of the graph, you'll notice that the trend of the lines is increasing from left to right. There's a positive slope. And if you look from 97 on, you can definitely see a negative slope. So Maui took a look at the data set in total, but Matt and I were looking at this from the vantage point of breaking it up into discrete segments, and there's clearly a change that happened in 97 with that 97 El Nino event. Don't know cause and effect, but there's definitely a different trend line from 97 on. Next, Matt, so we can take a look at the accumulated cyclone energy.
Did it switch?
Not yet.
Oh, gosh.
Here we go.
Bingo.
Okay.
This graph is really very profound. You notice that in the 90s to about 2006, the accumulated cyclone energy in the Atlantic, which is, let's see, the bottom one is the northern hemisphere, the top one is global. So if the area that's shaded is the southern hemisphere storms. But if you take a look at the period from 90 to about 2006, that's a peak period. And now we're back to accumulated cyclone energies that were back in the 70s and 80s. So the trend line here is definitely down as well. So both the number of storms in recent years and the accumulated cyclone energy in recent years bears no semblance to what's being claimed in all these climate reports. The storms are not getting more frequent, they're not getting more intense, it's just not there. Let's go to the next slide where I took a look at tornadoes. Just thought I'd throw this in as a little, added bonus. This is from NCDC, obviously compiled by Storm Prediction Center as well. And other than 2011, which you folks in Alabama know well, you have to go back to 1973, 1974 for major tornado years. But if you look at the numbers, there's not any trend line here that says the number of tornadoes, EF1 plus, is growing dramatically across the United States. And if you look at the same graph on the next slide, that's going to be EF3 plus tornadoes, which is even more telling.
Holy mackerel.
If you take, yeah, if you take 1974 and go from that point on, it's what increase in tornado frequency? The big storms are not increasing in number. There's year-to-year variations, but you look back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, and those were major, massive tornado years. So I don't see this trend line of storminess increasing due to CO2. Let's go to the last slide. I did this one only because I had to give a talk earlier this year in Ohio on the polar vortex.
Oh, boy.
Where's the buzzer on that?
Now apparently renamed the pollen vortex. Even worse.
Well, no. I wanted to do the polar vortex for the following reason. If you look at the two images that are up there, I just picked random weather maps from different days back in the NWS Weather Map Archive. There's always a polar vortex. Sometimes it moves south, sometimes it moves north, sometimes it breaks into multiple vortices, but there's always a polar vortex. This year it just happened to hang around Hudson's Bay in the northeast, and I guess the bad news is it's going to make a repeat performance this week across the northeast. So the eastern United States will be cold and the western United States will be warm. Surprise.
So Mike, here's an article in, let's see what publication this is. It's, let me get over here. This is the Nature Conservancy.
Yep.
It says climate change will cause storms, hurricanes, and tropical storms to be more intense, last longer, unleashing stronger winds, causing more damage. But the truth is, your research is showing there's been actually no increase in frequency in these things, right?
And no basic increase in intensity. But here's the thing, if you read the last part, causing more damage to coastal ecosystems and communities. That's the rub. Let me give you a background on this. This is perhaps a good way to bring some closure to this. 20 years ago, I was teaching a class at a community college in Maryland. And one day, the 70-year-old retired master chief came in with a piece of paper pressed to his chest saying, I have the answer to climate change. I said, really? He said, yes, I have the graph right on this piece of paper. Guess what it is? Well, I couldn't. So he finally showed me, and I took one look at it, and I said, wow, that's the inverted hockey stick. And it was a graph of global population.
Yeah.
So I've since looked at other graphs that are inverted hockey sticks, the number of cell phones, the number of cars on the road, etc. You could correlate anything you want to that inverted hockey stick, but he came up with global population, and we could have a good time with that in 10 or 20 shows if we wanted to do that.
I think that goes back to Sandy, Mike. You know, Sandy hit the most populated corridor of the United States of America. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? It's not going to be good.
Nope, and they hadn't had a storm in how many years? The storm the year before was running parallel to the coast, so it wasn't a major disaster in the making. You know, you get a storm like that, it's like the Ash Wednesday storm that sat off the mid-Atlantic for 5 days and did incredible erosion on the Delmarva.
Brian, what are you wearing there? Brian has changed his shirt now. Brian, why don't you read that for our listeners?
It says hot flashes, the real reason for global warming.
Oh no!
That's Brian's T-shirt right there.
No.
Hormone problems.
I photographed that this weekend at our little Buck Creek Festival, and I figured this was an appropriate time to show it.
Well, can I tell you about my T-shirt that I'm having made?
No, what's that?
Maybe you'd all like to buy them. It reads, weather happens, climate changes, and taxes and fees will rise.
Nice.
But that's good stuff.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah, go.
If just real quick, I want to get his opinion on Mike's opinion on it. Is, you know, if the Earth is just a little less than 5 billion years old, but we only have data for 140 years, you know, climate data for 140 years, how can we make those assumptions, you know? It just blows my mind.
Agreed. That baffles me too.
Well, I don't have all the details yet, but I heard the other day that NOAA is going to be issuing climate forecasts next year. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm not sure how the climate forecast will change from year to year.
Yeah, I don't.
I predict major changes in every year that ends with a 1.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is that akin to the fact that there's more natural disasters in the years of presidential and House elections?
Wow. Who'd have thought?
Well, someone's on to something.
I was about to do my screen share here so you guys can see what's on my mind.
Exploding head syndrome is a real thing.
Yes.
All right, we gotta move on here, and you guys just hang with us. We got some segments we have to drop in here. At this point, I think we should do a weather roundup. Who's doing the weather roundup? Nate, is that you or Aubrey or?
I think it's let's do email. Let's do email first, and we'll come back, and I will prep a weather roundup while you are doing your thing.
Hey man, that's good. I will roll that email music because we got to check that good old email inbox.
Letters. We get letters.
Yes. We have some letters, and we have some listener survey responses. So first weather, yes, all of that. Jeff
The first
Wilcox,
letter about weather.
yes, all of that stuff. It's Monday. I woke up today thinking it was Sunday. I was highly disappointed.
Yeah, you think?
I guess.
Womp womp.
This was my first weekend off in full weekend off in a couple weeks. So yeah. Anyways, Jeff Wilcox from Iowa Weather said he just wanted everyone to be aware of the Polygon show that was done this past Friday with Dan, formerly of KFOR in Oklahoma City. He owns a tornado shelter business. And also, side note, if anyone else on the panel didn't know, James was on the 3rd show and Nate was on the 9th show live from his car. He said possibly getting cheer wine from his dealer on the black market. So it's possibly becoming a competition to WeatherBrains at this point. He just wanted to throw that idea out there. So thanks, Jeff, for that email. Then we had a listener survey response from Yanley. And Yanley enjoys listening as much as possible. Skywarn certified storm spotter trained, and as far as comments, they would like to hear a show about USGS and how weather influences their work. So that might be actually kind of interesting. Michael Moss sent us a video from a tornado chase near Waverly, Missouri on May 10th. And Victor sent us a video, also, let's see, this is an image, and says, have you noticed the new term for global warming is now climate disruption, apparently?
On that note, there goes the buzzer.
He said cue the foghorn, so as James, you're a little delayed on that. I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah, I was. I'm just. It's like I'm having trouble too. This is just a Monday. I'm not doing well.
All right. Another survey response. This one is from Kelly. She likes the longer shows, but the shorter ones may be better for others. She has completed a couple of aviation weather courses and says thanks for the show. She really enjoys it.
She likes the longer shows?
Mm-hmm. I know.
Wow, good.
Wow.
I guess my check
it.
didn't bounce.
Let's just see. Let's stay up all night.
And then Brandon McKenzie said he sent in a survey but wasn't sure if we got it. He would love to hear more discussions about different weather software that TV stations use and some advantages and disadvantaged ones of each. For example, during severe weather, he noticed one of the Oklahoma TV stations using multiple radar outputs. I'm assuming it has to do with resolution, but just curious to hear from everyone about the advantages, disadvantages of Titan, Viper, other outlets that we can use on TV, etc. So that is the email inbox. If you have a question, comment, concern, idea, guest suggestion, or something you like or don't like about the show, you can send us an email to email@weatherbrains.com. You can also fill out a listener survey form. Just go to weatherbrains.com. Is that what it is? WeatherBrains.com. That's the website.
Yep.
We're all discombobulated today. So you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can search for WeatherBrains. You can search for us individually, and we have a lot of fun on there. So
you can find us at the post office.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the post office. Well, I like the idea about doing a show maybe on television weather, kind of how the sausage is made with these different vendors.
That's cool.
I think most people listening would find that somewhat interesting because if you watch television weather, then the graphic system, and quite frankly, there's not that many vendors left. There's been so much consolidation.
Yeah.
You got WSI. Weather Central, and I think they're owned by the same people now. And you
They're
got
all the
Beer
same
and Services.
thing.
Yeah, and you got
The
some,
Weather Network.
you got a new, yeah, and you got the newer players like Weather Decision Technologies. But I think that'd be kind of cool. That's actually a good idea. But you know what? We got to do a little weather roundup here. So here we go.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
And for some folks in the northern plains and the upper Midwest, that precipitation may be snow. We had some snow in Denver, Colorado, a picture that was making the rounds today on the social media. It's a picture of Coors Field, the infield and the outfield covered in snow in Denver. And I spoke to a friend of mine who is the chief meteorologist at a station in Lincoln, Nebraska. They were doing tornado warning coverage this time yesterday. Today they're talking about frost advisories for tomorrow morning. You gotta love spring in the plains of the United States. Big cold front draped across the central part of the country, just to the east or the west of the Mississippi, draping from about Minneapolis down to, I don't know, let's call it Texarkana, and then back up toward El Paso. Pretty strong at 10:30, high pressure system building in from the northwest. Going to keep things a little cool for the northern and central plains over the next couple of days. Meanwhile, for those of us watching, listening, participating around the digital mahogany table here in the southeastern U.S. and really much of the east, it is warm, it is muggy. Raleigh, North Carolina made it to 90 degrees today for the first time in 241 days since the 12th of September in the year 2013. Folks in Fayetteville, just a couple of counties to our south, less than about an hour, 15-minute drive from here, have been in the 90s almost 10 times so far this year. And my counterpart at the Fayetteville Observer, Chick Jacobs, FO Weather on Twitter, is giving me all sorts of grief about that. There's welcome to the party and all that rot. But we'll be back in the 90s, it looks like, in Raleigh tomorrow. I know a lot of the Southeast has been in the 90s. And Aubrey and James were talking about folks in the mountains of Virginia making it to the 90s tomorrow.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree with that. The saving grace so far, at least here in North Carolina, the dew points have been tolerable, upper 50s to right around 60. That's about the break point for me where it starts to, I want to have nothing to do with it. But at least the air conditioning is working. And still no sign of that big major earthquake that they were expecting in Oklahoma last week. We're going to watch for that. Little itty-bitty pre-shock activity in portions of Oklahoma has really been active over the last little while, and that's why the USGS said, hey, we're starting to see this, so maybe we should pay more attention. But so far, nothing. We'll hope that trend continues.
Hey, Mike, we're doing a weather roundup. You're our tropical expert. What's a hurricane season going to be like?
There will be a hurricane season.
The man is brilliant.
He's running for
Totally
office.
Brilliant. Yes. All right, let's see here. Nate, have you got any news for us? Do we need to play this news music here?
I do, yeah.
Hang on here. Let me see if I can find your news segment here. With this kind of spacey music we played. Nate's News. We need like a big pipes and now. We need Morgan Palmer to do this. We need to get Morgan Palmer to voice a news open for Nate because he's got the pipes.
He does.
There's pipes in the weather business. Yeah.
He does.
All right.
A couple of interesting things going on in the weather world. One story that made the rounds on social media last week. Yes, it is that time of the year. It is May. In local television, it is sweeps. Everything can kill you, and in this case, it might be employment shortages at the National Weather Service. The NBC station in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, NBC5 Investigates, has uncovered union documents showing as many as 500 vacant positions available nationwide at National Weather Service offices. That, according to NBCDFW.com. And including nearly 200 frontline meteorology positions. Now, of course, the Weather Service just got out from a hiring freeze and just posted a boatload of mostly entry-level positions, nowhere near 200 or 500, but it's going to take some time. And speaking with Rick Smith from the National Weather Service office in Norman, Oklahoma, of the resumes and applications that were forwarded to him for a single position at the Norman office, 141 applications that got referred. And for those of you who know about the federal hiring process, not everybody gets referred to the person doing the hiring. It's a very small percentage. And so you can imagine that there were a lot of folks that did not get referred for a lot of those positions, but certainly a lot of them did. Unfortunately, the ratio is not looking good for folks looking for jobs, but that is I think that's a good sign for the Weather Service. It means they're going to get their pick of the best talent out there, which is good news. But interesting to see how things work. I know from at least dealing with my Weather Service counterparts that they are some of the hardest working people in the business and will forego all sorts of things in order to get the job done, especially during the government shutdown and everything else. But we'll see how that plays out. Weather Channel getting themselves into a little bit more social media hot waters. A little backstory here. For those of you who aren't from Dallas or Fort Worth or anywhere in Texas, let me tell you a little bit about Dallas and Fort Worth. They are two completely different places with completely different cultures, different lifestyles, the whole nine yards. Yes, they share an airport, although the folks in Fort Worth will be quick to point out that it is in Tarrant County, not Dallas County. And folks in Fort Worth, they're very proud of the fact that they're not Dallas, and vice versa. So, to the story. A city councilman from Fort Worth tweeted the Weather Channel saying, hey, your app, which shows background pictures pulled from the internet, is showing I'm pulling up a forecast from Fort Worth, and I've got pictures of Dallas. They're not the same place. Hook me up with some pictures of Fort Worth. Heard nothing. Crickets. Nada. Zip. So he says, hey, I'm deleting the... Yes! So he says, I swear I'm deleting your aggravating app if you don't stop showing Dallas pictures for Fort Worth. This is a big deal. And if you forecast, if you do the weather, and James, you can back me up on this, if you do the weather for anywhere, you got to know the people, you got to know the places, you got to know the culture, and you got to know that point A and point B are not the same thing, and you confuse and conflate the two at your peril. Mm-hmm. That would have been bad enough. But then the folks at the Weather Channel, somebody on the social media team, got a little sarcastic, sort of poking at this particular councilman's, I don't want to say hobby because it's more than a hobby. It's a passion. It's a calling that he's in charge of, or not in charge of, but involved with I'll try that again. It Gets Better did a speech that was on the TED website. This is anti-bullying, and the Weather Channel responded, sorry to see you go. Good luck on ending bullying. That was the tweet. Wow. Well, this councilman's followers just lit the Weather Channel up. Eventually, they did apologize. We apologized for our reply this morning. Our response was inappropriate. We're taking steps to ensure it doesn't happen again. And then they also a statement that was reported to the folks at the Dallas Morning News, dallasnews.com, said one of our team members used some sarcasm in an unfortunate and unacceptable way on our Twitter account. So there you go. So,
I've not heard that. Good.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, a couple of lessons here. Number one, this, and I think this is one of these things where automation in some of the apps, and Weather Channel's not the only person to do this. Yahoo does this in their app. This is a gotcha. It's an automation gotcha. I don't know how they're pulling pictures, but I've seen pictures from Hagerstown, Maryland, which is near D.C., and by near I mean it's an hour away. Mm-hmm. But yet showing national monuments from around the district, the Jefferson Memorial, that sort of thing. These are mistakes you can't make. I'm sorry. You got to know your people, you got to know the area, and you got to know that somebody pulling up a forecast for Hagerstown, Maryland, when their GPS says they're in Hagerstown, Maryland, you can't be showing pictures of Washington, D.C. Same thing with Dallas and Fort Worth. Same thing with Raleigh and Durham. Yes, they share an airport. No, they're not the same place. The people in Durham have a lot of pride in Durham, and they are right to do so. Same thing in Raleigh. Don't mix up the two.
Reasons why you should stick with local forecasters, because they know the area, and yet it's just something national. I don't know. It's a local niche. It's a local niche.
Yep.
It's tricky. I'm not gonna say that you can't do forecasts that's not local. Certainly you can, but you have to. It's harder. It's trickier, and you've got to pay that much more attention, or else you're going to be in trouble. A couple other things. Folks at the University of Alabama Huntsville released their monthly report on global temperatures. We are up 0.19 degrees Celsius over the 30-year average for April. Hey, this is John Christie, for crying out loud. This isn't your.
The buzzer just blows on it. It doesn't matter whose side you're on. It just blows. I mean,
he'd be riding that buzzer right along with you there, James. And the month of March, revised numbers plus 0.17 degrees Celsius, are about between the 2 months about 2/3 of a degree Fahrenheit over the corresponding averages total. Finally, if you're planning on presenting at the National Weather Association annual meeting in Salt Lake City, Utah, coming up this October, and I hope you are. It's going to be a great meeting. I'm looking forward to going to Utah for the first time this year. Your abstract is due. You have about 2.5 weeks. The abstract deadline is May 31st. 2014. Get those abstracts
I've got one more quick little tidbit I found interesting, that they shut the WeatherSpace guys' Facebook page down. Did you guys see this?
No.
Yes, they did. They did.
So the WeatherSpace is this guy, this kind of weird-looking guy, looks like Johnny Depp, and he comes up with these.
Ladies and gentlemen, send your complaints and lawsuits to span@jamesspan.com.
That's it. So he puts these outrageous forecasts on there. It's almost like The Onion. It's so outrageous, and if you criticize him, then he says, I'm going to write an article and I'm going to publish an article to Google that you were a child molester. And he's threatened me.
Yeah.
This is what this guy does. I mean, that's his mode of operation. And he says, I'm going to publish an article that you're a child molester and ruin your career. And he's threatened me with physical violence. And understand, this is normal. I mean, I think he's threatened most professional meteorologists in the country. The Weather Service got into this big ruckus with this guy. But I don't know who made it happen, but thank you. Whoever got this guy's Facebook page pulled, it's gone. So that's interesting. All right.
Well, hold on. Before we go, James, I have one last thing. I feel obliged to share with our viewing audience, just in case they haven't seen it yet, because this is the greatest thing ever. This combines two things that I spend way too much time and money on. Yes, it's Chick-fil-A and James Spann, WeatherBrains.
Oh boy.
This was okay. Tell the story, James. Let me describe first of all what the folks are looking at, and we'll include a link. Brian, this will be my pick of the week, and I'll let Bill have his by himself. This is a selfie. There are 3 Chick-fil-A employees, including Lauren in the foreground of the shot, holding a camera, and there is none other than James Spann hanging out the side of his car with his tongue hanging out, saying, "For the love of Pete, hook me up with some chicken. I need some chicken.
Just give me some chicken. Give me some chicken." No, I was going through a drive-through, and they said, "Ooh, can we get a selfie with you?" And so, of course, we were holding up the line. This was like at the lunch hour. How those places are so crowded. And I'm surprised nobody was blowing their horn back there. But no, they were very sweet people. That is the Chick-fil-A in Moody, Alabama, and that was fun. All right, I got to go. Nate, you are going to handle picks of the week, and I got to go do some television next door.
All right. I love, by the way, I had to tweet that with the hashtag respect the pickles. For those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to enjoy a tasty, beautiful, wonderful, amazing sandwich from the good folks at Chick-fil-A, it's chicken, it's bun, and there's 2 pickles, and that's it. You don't need anything else. You don't need any lettuce or tomato or any of that nonsense, just the pickles. It's that good. This is Picks of the Week. This is the part of the show where we go around the horn asking, inviting, begging, whatever, picks, anything weather-related. Can be a website, can be a book, can be a television program, can be anything you want, weather-related. And I will start with Miss Aubrey, ladies first. Aubrey Urbanowitz from Edit Bay, number 3.14159. Your pick of the week, Matt.
Thank you very much. My pick of the week is SPC storm reports because, well, you know, we're getting into that season. We've got hail, we've got wind, we've got tornadoes. So you can find all of the details of the storm reports on SPC's lovely report page. Very informative. So that's my pick.
Good stuff. Brian Peters, pick of the week, sir.
I happen to have an excellent one. I actually got this, believe it or not, and posted it on our test page for the draft page last Thursday, so that I could make sure it was time-stamped so nobody could beat me out of it. But it is something NASA is doing, and that is they're actually broadcasting live from the space shuttle.
If you haven't seen this yet,
No.
this is the ISS. This is sick.
What? It's what?
It's sick. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yes, it is. I think I have about a snowball's chance in a hot place to go up there, but this is almost like being there.
I want to get a big 50-some-odd inch monitor, hang it on the wall of my office, and route that feed into it 24/7.
Amen.
The problem is, number one, it costs money, and number two, I'd never get anything done because I'd just sitting there looking at it going,
I know. I find myself just sitting here in front of my computer, and I bring that up, and it's fascinating.
It's mesmerizing. It really is. That really is good. My pick of the week, rounding out the regulars for this week, this is, of course, the James Spann selfie. We'll post a picture to that. If you haven't seen it yet, it's great. The folks at my local Chick-fil-A know my name, but not because I'm on TV. Michael Clark, pick of the week, sir.
No, I was supposed to have a pick of the week.
Well, it can be anything. BamChase.net, that's a perfectly fine.
No, it can't be because that's already in the episode.
Well, let me see what I have here. I didn't know I was supposed to bring one to the show here. Let's see.
What? You haven't watched the show before and known what we do?
I have, but I forgot. I forgot to bring a pick of the week.
I forgot.
Next week we're going to roast you.
Can you believe that Bam Chase guy didn't even come with a pick of the week?
I know it.
Let me see what I got here, guys. I had several pictures posted to us yesterday from the storms here. Yesterday was our single most active severe weather day of the entire year so far, believe it or not, with an amazing 20 severe weather reports. So we've had a really slow season up here, but we had several pictures posted to our page. Let's see here if I can pull it up. I'm having a hard time pulling it up here. Let's see here. We had several hailstone pictures sent to me. This is something quick that I'm going to have to come up with. Is this going to suffice?
Fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see here. Let me pull it up for you.
Hail pictures are always good.
Yeah.
Let me figure out how I load it up in here for you.
Well, let's go and check out while you're working that out. We'll keep things moving. We'll come back to you. Mike Mogul, a pick of the week, sir.
I got a good one for you. It's a website from Rapid City, South Dakota. I can give you the web address if you want it. It's relatively short. It's www.crh.noaa.gov/N=PW. And the PW stands for precipitable water. And it's the precipitable water normals chart and departure from normals chart. And it's dynamite. Nice.
Good stuff. For those who maybe aren't familiar with that, precipitable water, the completely integrated amount of water content through a depth of the atmosphere, we can use it as a proxy for how much rain you'd be able to squeeze out in a good heavy water event. And it's very useful in being able to determine whether you're at a flood risk or not. It's one of the things we look at, one thing of many, but good stuff. Matt, a pick of the week from you, sir.
Yes, I just scrambled to find one. Let's see. Basically, I'll throw it up here. Let's see if I can get it working. Screen share. All right, can you see this?
It's trying. There we go.
Polar water vapor.
Ooh.
Let's see if I can get the loop going.
Ah, it's from our good friends at the College of
Yes.
DuPage.
College of DuPage. It's, I believe, a 2-week loop of polar water vapor.
Where's that polar vortex you were talking about, Mike?
There it is with all of its brethren.
It's talking about things that you could stare at for hours and
Yes.
hours. That's
I've
right
done
up there.
that. I've done that with this.
Ooh, look at the pretty lights.
Repeat after me. When you wake up, you will not remember anything.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the way we'll be after this episode of WeatherBrains is over. All right, Michael Clark, I see pictures up for you, sir.
Yeah, I found my picture. I pulled it together real quick. Like I said, it's a picture of hail. We had some hail here yesterday, and quite a bit of it, actually. We even had a hail report just west of Terre Haute, Indiana, of 2.5-inch tennis ball size hail. So some pretty big hail reported over there. But like I said, yesterday was our busiest severe weather day of the entire year so far.
All right.
So.
Good stuff. And I like that. I'm guessing it's about quarter size, maybe a little bit bigger with the.
Yeah, it looked like it was about 1-inch hail, they said, right out of Lebanon, Indiana. So.
And for those who can't see it, obviously there'll be a link to it, but it's a disc, but it almost looks like a sprocket.
Yeah.
With those little things pointing out the side.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about. I mean, we talked about the weather space, and Michael, I know that you had some run-ins with folks criticizing your approach in terms of social media. I know this winter time. Tell me about how that went, and your thoughts on the role that you and others. And I know James had mentioned some of the sort of the fly-by-night high school kids and folks that are just literally just in it for shares. Clearly, you're into it for a little more than that. Tell us a little bit about your approach and your side of that.
It's such a touchy subject. If you were to take
it is that.
Yeah, it is. And people will if you say something just slightly the wrong way, you're going to be punished. So it's just making sure. The way I try and do it is just making sure, saying, listen, this is one of many different forecast model suggestions. One thing I always tell my subscribers or the people that are watching me is that the European forecast model has 51 different ensemble members. It can tell us 51 different ways to manipulate a forecast, so that we, as meteorologists, as people who are sharing this information, we have so much stuff to look at and go by that we have to make our best judgment call for that. But, for example, like those SREF plumes, you can get from the Storm Prediction Center. And you can say, hey, one ensemble member says no rain, but you have another ensemble member that says 7 inches of rain. So, in all reality, you really do have a computer that says you could get 7 inches of rain. So you're not technically making it up, but the likelihood of it happening is very, very slim. So, it's just explaining that, making sure people know what we have to go through in order to put a forecast together.
And in terms of those what we would consider to be outlier forecasts, I mean, I think in most cases, 30 inches of snow or 7 inches of rain or whatever, those are highly unlikely. Do you do anything special? Because I think one of the criticisms that I've seen amongst, at least from TV folks of social media, primarily social media folks, and even some TV people, quite frankly, picking that, oh, this is the worst case scenario, and they'll frame it that way,
Yep.
And then they'll say this is a model, not a forecast. Do you think, and Mike Mogul, I'd love to have your opinion on this as well. Do you think people in the public appreciate that? Do they understand that what we're looking at here has if we just take each member of the European literally, it's got a 2% chance of happening, actually less than 2% chance. And that, obviously that's not how the ensembles work, but we're looking at something that's highly, highly unlikely. But when we put that out there, do we think that members of the public have that do they get the nuance there? Or do we think that people are, and I'm not saying you are necessarily, I'm saying that, do we think that some people see the big numbers and they're putting them out there in order to get retweets and shares?
I think that, the way I've had even people come to me and say, hey, I really like that we know what the possibilities are, and it also brings a different outlook to a weather person's job. Everyone says TV weather guy can be wrong half the time and still get paid. That's the running joke you always hear. And it's like, well, hey, listen, I mean, let me tell you why I might be wrong. Let me tell you why, this could happen. There have been times where these worst case scenario situations have happened. Henryville, for example, so in certain situations, I could see, if you're talking a tornado, if you're going to get out there and say, hey, there's going to be a tornado outbreak and several lives are at stake here, I don't think that should ever be said if you don't have a lot of confidence with that. I think that's something you really need to know, that, hey, if I say this, people are really going to run with this. There's a lot of people that are really, really afraid of thunderstorms and what they can do. So, I think it's really important how you word it and how you present it.
Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can only tell you that between the regular media and the social media, every storm is fast becoming the worst storm ever.
Yeah, it really is.
And that becomes retweeted and shared and posted and reposted, and pretty soon everyone believes it's the worst storm in the world. And one of these days, someone's not going to believe the forecast, and then there will be deaths and casualties. Every storm cannot be the worst storm. Now, I will share something. I don't usually do this, but I used to forecast in California when I worked with the Weather Service, and we had a big storm system coming in, and I forecast 3 feet of snow for the Sierra Nevadas. I'm an eastern boy, so 3 feet of snow for the Sierra Nevadas, that was really going out on a limb. I only missed the forecast by 6 feet. Oh, I'm sorry. That was in 36 hours. So it was 108 inches at Blue Canyon in 36 hours.
Wow.
That's a lot of snow.
Yep. Those were the good old days when California got snow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I want to sort of follow-up question for the two of you, Mike and Matt. With regards to what you found in terms of the hurricane frequency globally, has that shaped your opinion of what's happening with climate change? Do you feel, does that maybe cause you to question it? Do you not buy it at all? Is this just another data point that's maybe overwhelmed by the totality of everything, or do you think your research doesn't speak to that necessarily in one way or another?
I'm going to go back to what Michael said about 140 years of data versus billions. Pretty short period of record. So the fact that temperatures are going up a few degrees, or maybe many degrees, and sea levels are rising by millimeters, I see nothing that says storms, and that's all that we were looking at was storms. We were looking particularly at hurricanes, that the storms are responding as the climate reports say they are. Now that may change 5 years from now, but up to this point, I see nothing in the data, and Matt and I see nothing in the data that says the storminess is increasing. And we've also looked, real quickly, we've looked at the snow statistics for northeast snowstorms with the NESIS index, and that shows a lot of storms in recent years, but those statistics are driven by population. So as the population in the Northeast grows, lo and behold, we have storms with a greater impact. But I don't see anything that says that snowfall numbers, amounts, or anything is increasing. If anything, this is going back to the way it was in the 1960s when I grew up. We had big snowstorms in the Northeast and in New York. So we're having them again. I could take you to other weather variables like droughts, but I mean the bottom line is there's nothing that's showing a long-term trend that this stuff meteorologically is happening the way the climate reports are saying. So
Okay.
that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the temperatures aren't going up, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be good stewards of the planet, and that we shouldn't do things that make sense. But just because someone says the sky is falling doesn't mean that I have to subscribe to Chicken Little.
I
I
agree
think
completely.
that one of the
Or
comments.
any, as the case may be.
Yeah, one of the comics that I like, and whenever I talk about global warming, I try and reference it because, I think at the end of the day, it's they're standing up in front of a room and it's listing all the things about if we reduce pollution and if we are more energy efficient and we have new jobs to sort of function the green economy and all this other stuff. And the question is, well, what if we're wrong, but we still have all these benefits that, if we take better care of the planet and everything else, have less waste, is that really such a bad thing in and of itself? I think that some of this stuff, and I think one of the messaging opportunities, I think, for folks who believe that climate change is a big problem that needs urgent attention, is this opportunity to say, the things that we're talking about doing aren't necessarily going to hold us back in anything. They're going to create jobs. They're going to push the economy forward. We're going to make the planet a better place to live, even if we're wrong about climate change and it's not happening at all. It's still not a bad thing.
Well, I could argue that and say that there's so many things we can do as individuals that don't require massive government spending to get the job done. And all people have to do is put a little bit of extra insulation in their attic or seal some windows or time the trips that they drive around town so they don't go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to share a quick story with you. This woman down here wanted to be conservation friendly. She had 2 fluorescent light bulbs and she knew they had mercury in them. So she didn't just want to throw them in the trash. So she drove to the recycling center, dumped the 2 fluorescent bulbs, and drove back home to the tune of a gallon of gas. So I view that as, yes, she did the right thing with the fluorescent bulbs, but it cost a gallon of gas and whatever pollution it generated, and maybe she could have done that on a different trip.
Yeah.
So, I just have issues with whatever it costs, we'll do it.
Yeah.
We don't have enough money in the bank.
I tend to agree with that as well, and just because it's good doesn't mean we should do it automatically, although we should be inclined to do it. But the things have to make sense. They've got to make economic sense. They've got to make political sense. They've got to make scientific sense.
Yeah, but the problem is some of the sense it makes sense to the people who are getting rich with it.
Well, that's true.
Follow the money.
And that's my problem with a lot of this stuff is that there's a lot of people making money off of this that shouldn't be.
Yes.
It's.
And Mike Mogul's research there is just showing that there's this climate change is climate change, for gosh sakes. It's been going on for billions of years.
So with that, I feel like we need to hit the buzzer one more time.
Of course.
Hit the buzzer.
Any other closing comments before we wrap it up for this week?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate your being on the program, and Mike Mogul and Matt, we appreciate you all being here as well. Good luck. Matt, tell us, actually, let's go around the horn real quick. Tell us a little bit about how we can find you on the internet, and if folks want to follow up with you about this research, how can they get a hold of you?
Yes, I have my information. I have a website, suncoaststormwatch.com, and then I have a bio. I have a bunch of social media links all up at Mr. Merkel's website, How the Weather Works. That's weatherworks.com.
All right.
And I'll be sure to pass those links along to you so you can put them in your recap.
Fantastic. Mike, how can folks get a hold of you?
Weatherworks.com, or they can call me at 1-900. No, I'm only kidding.
No, he's not.
No, weatherworks.com works. We've got information there on how to reach us. Our phone number's posted, and they can also contact us by an email form. So would love to hear from people. Anybody interested in the weather camp program this summer, middle and high school, feel free to get in touch. I'll put you in touch with the right camp. I do a lot of writing on examiner.com, so check me out there. And otherwise, thanks for having me, and nice to see all of you again.
Yeah, fantastic. I have you as well. Will you be at NWA in Salt Lake this fall?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you reminded me about the deadline because it would have come close to escaping me. So Matt and I will work on this in the next couple days.
Excellent. Looking forward to seeing the presentation. Michael Clark, how do we find you on the interwebs?
Everything we do is through our website, bamchase.net. Emails there, social media. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and everything we do is ran through that website. So feel free to follow us or contact us, and just be ready for a lot of Indiana and Ohio Valley weather.
All right. Well, this has been Weather Brains for this week. This is Monday, May the 12th. We're recording this. We do this little weather netcast live at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern Time on Monday nights. Typically, every now and again, we'll break format and jump to another night of the week. But Monday nights are pretty popular this time around. And if you'd like to get a hold of us, we love hearing from you. And we like hearing a lot of different things. We love your comments, good, bad, or ugly. I know we're ugly. At least I am. I won't speak for Aubrey, but the rest of us are ugly. But send us your comments. We also like news items. If you have something news-related, if you'd like to suggest a pick of the week, for those of us who are too lazy to come up with them on their own, that would be me. I tried to steal Bill's pick this week until I realized that the Chick-fil-A selfie was still available, so I jumped on that. So picks of the week. Guest suggestions, if you'd like to have somebody on the program or like to hear from somebody, we'd love to get those as well. Just about anything, short of naked pictures. We do not want those. But anything else, send them to us. Email at weatherbrains.com. You can tweet us. We are at WeatherBrains. We are plus WeatherBrains on Google+. We are WeatherBrains on the Facebook. Pretty much like Aubrey said earlier in the program, if you Google WeatherBrains, chances are we're going to be the I'm Feeling Lucky pick. So just to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. Until then, we will see you next week on Weather Brains. Until next week, I am not James Spann. Good night and God bless. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for coming on.
A good show.
You all have way too much fun.
Well, you should join us. Hang out with us.
We like
Love to have you
it.
guys anytime.
Mike, good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you. I'll be
Maybe I'll
better
try
in touch, I promise.
Maybe I have to get to Salt Lake City this fall.
I think we need to do another live Weather Brains.
Yeah, those are fun. Hey, you guys didn't even want to find out why I hated the Patriot Act. That's what bothers me.
Okay, why'd you hate the Patriot Act?
Because we're buying a house.
Oh.
There you go.
And the amount of paperwork that one now has to go through for them to trace every single penny that you're putting down as a down payment is insanity.
Yep. And let's not
You just minted it?
get started on the TSA.
Yeah, no, it's just pretty incredible. It took 3 hours today to put all the pieces together to make them happy.
Holy mackerel. Ouch.
And I'm saying only 3? You got off lucky.
Well, wait a minute. That doesn't include the 17 hours last week.
There you go.
That's making more sense.
Yeah, so it was a pretty tough morning on that. But other than that, the day ended beautifully. Thank you guys for having us. It was great. And Matt, thanks for being here and helping out.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, there he is. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, well, if you guys get any comments that we need to answer, don't hesitate. We'll be happy to do so.
We'll send them your way.
Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Yes to James.
Will do. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Night, Matt.
Ooh, 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 ooh. This amazes me how many people are still watching this. This is just like crazy. Let me get these recorders turned off here. When we do this, we record on two separate audio channels. We do one track, which is the Google Hangout, and one track, which is me coming off this mic. And people ask all the time how we do this. I don't have any mixer. Well, I just use one computer. Use a little piece of software called Audio Hijack Pro, which is how the magic works. That's how we route the sound effects down the Google Hangout channel and do all the recording and everything. But hey, that was a good show. You know, Mike Mogul is a great. I love having Mike on the show. I mean, Mike's a really cool guy. He was a great guest. I loved Mike's little segment and the research that they did on tropical weather in relation to you know what. That was good. Let's see here. We got some exciting. We have some exciting news. Should I announce that here at the end of the show for those bold and daring to stick around? We have a new permanent panelist coming on the show. A friend of the show is going to become a very good friend of the show. There's going to be a part of the show. I don't know if I should announce this or not. I never know. I'm out of the loop. I'm just the button presser guy. I'm putting up all my doodads here. No, Rick Smith of Oklahoma City, the warning coordination meteorologist who is really a great guy. And he is going to come on as a permanent panelist. I think I'm very excited to have a Weather Service employee as a regular on the show. You know, Brian is retired, but if you look at everybody else, we've got, you know, Nate, who is a TV guy. I'm a TV guy. Aubrey's a TV lady. And again, Brian's a retired Weather Service guy, but he's not active. Bill Murray's in the private sector. But having an active Weather Service employee, I think, is a very good thing, and especially a high-profile employee like that. But Rick is very good at communication and has a real passion for severe weather safety and things like that. And they're on the cutting edge out there. So it's going to be great having our friend Rick on the show as a regular. I think some other cool things in the pipeline too, but that's all I know at this point. What else? What other good secrets can I give away here? I don't know. May is a happy month and a sad month. Kids growing up makes me sad. I have two kids and they're 13 years apart. Most of you know this. One is 29, the other is 16. How's that for weird? But the 16-year-old is ending his junior year in his school, and he starts, you know, his senior year, and that's really going to be sad in a year. My hormones will be all out of whack for that. But what's cool is he plays high school baseball for a large high school in a suburb of Birmingham called Spain Park, and they are in the state 6A, and in our state that's the largest classification, the very large schools, the 6A baseball championship. Man, wow, very few get to that level, so that's kind of cool. But schools about to get out, and things slow down a little bit for the summer, which is always kind of good. It's at my ripe old age, it is a little harder because most of you know I get home, you know, midnight, and I get up every morning before 5 to do radio and the internet stuff, and then I'm in schools every day. I am in a school every day and doing a science program. And the fact that school's out, and of course there's still summer programs and a lot of things going on here, but life gets a little easier for me here in the summer. But I got to go. We're done. It's a wrap. Thanks for sticking up, staying up late. See you next week. We are beaming up. Good day and good night and goodbye and good luck.